I want to bring your attention to, 2 days from today, May 11, will mark the second anniversary since an Israeli sniper killed our colleague Shireen Abu Akleh, a Palestinian-American journalist. And I want to ask you, are you satisfied that everything that could have been done to bring those responsible, to hold them accountable, has been done? And do you consider that case to be closed?
That death continues to be a tragedy, one that was investigated by the Israeli government, one that we investigated, and I don't have anything further to add to what we said before.
So the case is closed.
I just don't have anything further to say on what we said many times. Early Sunday morning in Israel, the parents of Hersh Goldberg-Polin received the devastating news that they would never see their son again after he was murdered by Hamas. Like John Polin and Rachel Goldberg-Polin, the families of 5 other hostages also found out on Sunday that they too had lost their loved ones forever. We grieve for all of them, and we demand justice for all of them. As Secretary Blinken said this weekend, Hersh Goldberg-Polin is an American hero.
Before I start the video, a heartfelt thanks to everybody who have supported this platform on buymecoffee.com and Patreon, and a request to others to do the same. I can't emphasize enough why it's important for all of you to support this platform if you want a credible and alternative news platform to grow. So let's come back to the topic of today. Both Antony Blinken and Keir Starmer have reacted furiously to the news of one Hersh Goldberg-Polin's death in the captivity of Hamas in Gaza. We don't know who killed that person or killed all those hostages, but these politicians have already declared that they were killed by Hamas. Starmer said that he was completely shocked. Yes, completely shocked by the news that 6 hostages had been found dead. That's what he wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter. The same man has never been completely shocked by the senseless murder of over 41,000 Palestinians by Israeli forces.
Mr. Speaker, can I start by saying I think the whole House will be shocked by the horrific killing of 6 hostages in the last few days. And I know I speak for the whole House when I say that. The remaining hostages must be released, and we need a ceasefire to ensure that that can happen, that aid desperately needed can get into the region, and we can begin the path to a 2-state solution.
Starmer was also never shocked when the rogue regime of Israel executed 3 UK citizens. Yes, all 3 British nationals, 1 Polish citizen, someone with a dual Canadian and American citizenship, and an Australian citizen, all in one strike, killed by Israel in one strike. You know what was their crime? They had left the comfort of their homes in the first world countries to feed starving mothers and children in Gaza. They all worked for the World Central Kitchen. But Starmer never felt completely shocked for those innocent lives and the lives of 41,000 more other Palestinians. For Blinken, Hersh Goldberg-Polin was a hero. Yes, his word, not mine. Look, the death of any person is sad and tragic. And as I said, it's Blinken and his administration which is responsible for the deaths of these hostages, or shall I say, their murder by Israeli forces using American-supplied weapons. But Blinken did not explain how Hersh was a hero. What heroic act had he undertaken to earn that title, except the fact that he had served in the Israeli Defense Forces after having made Israel his permanent home in 2008, 16 years ago. So he was essentially more Israeli than Blinken. Hersh Goldberg served with the IDF, which is an organization of terrorists notorious for the senseless murder of Palestinians and raping them. Shall I tell this war criminal Blinken who the American hero was? There was a woman called Rachel Corrie who was crushed to death by Israeli terrorists in 2003, almost 21 years ago. Her crime? She had decided to stand in between Israeli terrorists and the Palestinian houses in Rafah that they were trying to illegally bulldoze way back in April 2003. If anyone, it's Rachel who represents American bravery, not anyone else. Has Blinken or his sellout predecessors ever punished Israelis for murdering an American citizen in the broad daylight? Rachel was not even Muslim or Arab. This is the treachery of American politicians that the world and particularly Americans need to know. I can't believe Americans continue to allow these rogue elements to serve the interest of Israel at the expense of the US. Let me also remind Blinken about his shameful response to the murder of another American hero, Shireen Abu Akleh, who was brutally murdered, a journalist, brave journalist, brutally murdered by Israeli terrorists also known as the IDF. Shireen was slaughtered by Israeli savages for reporting the crimes as a journalist on 11th of May 2022. We all know that. We have heard about that. We have read about her cruel murder. Both Israelis and Blinken first shamelessly tried to hide Israeli crimes.
What about Shireen Abu Akleh? She was murdered by Israeli forces, right? CNN just agreed to this. These are your two greatest allies in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and Israel. Murdered American journalists, and there have been absolutely no repercussions. And you're sitting up here talking about the freedom of press and democracy. The United States is denying sovereignty to tens of millions of people around the world with draconian sanctions for electing leaders that you do not like. Why is there no accountability for Israel or Saudi Arabia for murdering journalists? It is one of the most dangerous places in the world to be a journalist in Palestine.
I deplore the loss of Shireen. She was a remarkable journalist, an American citizen, as you all know. And there, too, we're determined to follow the facts and get to the truth of what happened to her. No, they have not yet been, no, I'm sorry, with respect, they have not yet been established. We're looking for, no, they have not. We were looking for an independent, credible investigation. When that investigation happens, we will follow the facts wherever they lead. It's as straightforward as that. That has not yet happened, but it's something that we very much want to see happen.
It wasn't until July 2011, 2 months after Shireen's murder by Israelis, that the State Department finally admitted that she was indeed killed by Israeli terrorists. And yet, when the State Department spokesperson was asked about the lack of action against Israel this year, see how shamelessly this chap called Matthew Miller reacted.
I want to bring your attention to, 2 days from today, May 11, will mark the second anniversary since an Israeli sniper killed our colleague Shireen Abu Akleh, a Palestinian-American journalist. And I want to ask you, are you satisfied that everything that could have been done to bring those responsible, to hold them accountable, has been done? And do you consider that case to be closed?
That death continues to be a tragedy, one that was investigated by the Israeli government, one that that we investigated, and I don't have anything further to add to what we said before. What we said in the past.
So the case is closed.
I just don't have anything further to say on what we said many times from this podium.
Now,
the same shameless spokesperson yesterday, only yesterday, started his daily press briefing with a long rant on Hersh Goldberg's death.
Early Sunday morning in Israel, the parents of Hersh Goldberg-Polin received the devastating news that they would never see their son again after he was murdered by Hamas. Like John Polin and Rachel Goldberg-Polin, the families of 5 other hostages also found out on Sunday that they too had lost their loved ones forever. We grieve for all of them, and we demand justice for all of them. As Secretary Blinken said this weekend, Hersh Goldberg-Polin is an American hero. The Secretary got to know Hersh's parents over the past 11 months, and like so many Americans who met them or who saw them in one of their many television appearances advocating for the release of their son, he heard from them time and time again what a special human being Hersh was. Hersh was a young man known by his family, by his friends for his kindness, for being a gentle soul who loved traveling, who loved music. And of course, he was attending a music festival on October 7th when it was attacked by Hamas, and he witnessed the murder of so many citizens, not just of Israel, but of countries around the world. The world also knows about the courage that Hersh demonstrated that day, how he took refuge in a shelter with others who were attending the festival, and when Hamas threw grenades into that shelter, he picked up grenade after grenade and threw them back out until eventually one of them blew one of his arms off. Hersh continued to demonstrate that same courage for the 330 days he spent in Hamas captivity. Tragically, any deal to bring home the hostages will come too late for him. But there are dozens of hostages still remaining in Gaza, still waiting for a deal that will bring them home. It is time to finalize that deal. The people of Israel cannot afford to wait any longer. The Palestinian people, who are also suffering the terrible effects of this war, cannot afford to wait any longer. The world cannot afford to wait any longer.
I repeat, Hersh was killed collectively by Blinken, the cancer known as AIPAC, and Blinken's masters in Israel, who continue to oppose a ceasefire. This is why no one is surprised that AIPAC has joined the bandwagon to extract the political mileage out of Hersh Goldberg's death. AIPAC is the cancer that has made American politics completely dysfunctional. It's important that it continues to poison Americans with its hateful lies by pushing the bogey of Hamas. It suits its propaganda. But why are Americans acting as fools and ignorant? Why are they not rising against this cancer called AIPAC? And not to forget our own Rishi Sunak, who never misses an opportunity to bat for Israel, to fly the flag for Israel, even in British Parliament today, as I speak today. See what he had to say.
But Mr. Speaker, turning to another important issue, the government has suspended 30 of the UK's 350 arms export licences to Israel. It's a decision that the chief rabbi says beggars belief and will encourage our shared enemies. Can the Prime Minister therefore explain how his decision will help to secure the release of the 101 hostages still being held by Hamas?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I start by saying I think the whole House will be shocked by the horrific killing of 6 hostages in the last few days. And I know I speak for the whole House when I say that. The remaining hostages must be released, and we need a ceasefire to ensure that that can happen, that aid desperately needed can get into the region, and we can begin the path to a two-state solution. Now, he asks how we arrived at this decision. He knows very well, because the legal framework is clear. The latest guidance was issued in 2021 under his government, and that means that licences have to be kept under review, as they were by his government. And I think he probably knows the advice that was given to his government. He understands the framework. We've carried out the review in the same way and come to a clear legal conclusion, and shared that conclusion, the assessment, with Parliament. We will, of course, continue to stand by Israel's right to self-defence, but it is important that we are a country committed to the international rule of law. That gives us the strength of argument with our allies on important issues. This is a difficult issue, I recognise that, but it's a legal decision, not a policy decision. And the Prime Minister knows the framework, and they issued the guidance, they know what the test is, that test has been assessed, we've come to a conclusion, and we've put that before the House to consider.
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the Prime Minister's answer, but he'll know that decisions like this also have important and broader geopolitical implications. And he mentioned allies. It's essential that we maintain transatlantic unity in the face of terrorist threats and avoid any perception of splits between our two nations. So can he therefore update the House or tell the House what engagement he had with the United States prior to taking this significant decision?
Prime Minister.
I acknowledge the importance of working with our allies on all issues, as we have been doing, as I was able to make very clear at the NATO summit that I attended in the early summer. And of course, as he would expect, as the House would expect, We have talked this through with our allies. They understand. They have a different legal system. That is the point they made. It chunters from the. This is a serious issue. It requires serious consideration. And the Prime Minister knows the legal framework. He knows the legal framework very well. He also knows that applying that framework, the facts of that framework, and arriving at a decision does not permit me to simply then say I'm not going to implement the legal decision and conclusion that's been reached. I don't think he's really inviting me to do that.
Rishi, Sunak.
Mr. Speaker, not only do these decisions have geopolitical consequences, but they also have emotional ones too. And the Prime Minister took this action on the very same day as the funerals of Israeli hostages murdered by Hamas. It's something that the Board of Deputies described as a terrible, terrible message to be sending. And I hope the Prime Minister understands the hurt that has been caused, and can he take this opportunity to reassure Israel and the Jewish community that the United Kingdom and this House stands behind Israel and its right to self-defence.
Prime Minister.
Let me be very clear about that. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We absolutely recognise and support Israel's right to self-defence and have taken action in support of that right of self-defence. And I've made that repeatedly clear in all of my engagements with Israel across the region and with all of our allies. I absolutely stand by that. But in relation to licences, this isn't an Israel issue. It's the framework for all licences that have to be kept under review. It's the same test for all licences, as the Prime Minister knows. And having applied the law to the facts and come to a legal conclusion, I don't think the Prime Minister is really inviting me to put that to one side. We have to, the Leader of the Opposition. This is a serious issue. We either comply with international law or we don't. And we only have strength in our arguments because we comply with international law. I appreciate the party opposite didn't think that international law mattered, and that's why we got into that pickle that we did.
Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. And please, please, please do support this platform on buymecoffee.com and Patreon. God bless you all.